Hey friend, Chris here from WideLogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Welcome to day 22 in our Newbie to Ninja series here on the channel and website, where I'll help you go from being a beginner in Logic Pro to become an expert, fully comfortable and capable to get right down to making awesome music in this amazing application. Today, let's dig into smart controls in Logic Pro, which can be opened and closed by going to this button in the upper left-hand corner of the control bar at the top of the screen. And by clicking on this button that looks like a knob on a controller, we reveal a set of smart controls for our selected track. You can adjust the sizing of the smart controls on your screen by hovering your mouse over the boundary of the smart control window. Click, hold, and then drag to a size that feels good for you. Smart controls are an easy, quick, and intuitive set of controls that you can use to adjust everything from channel strip controls to plug-in parameters, software instrument controls, and much more. And the smart control window will update with each selected track and channel strip. So now the smart controls have updated from that of a drum machine designer kit to that of an instance of the Alchemy synthesizer. And this isn't just for software instruments either. If we select an audio track, such as this electric guitar, the smart controls update again, offering us an easy set of controls for adjusting the different audio effects on our channel strip, as well as controls for sending more electric guitar signal from this track to two separate delay and reverb channels. Let's start out by just having some fun playing around with some smart controls. For example, I'm going to select this one guitar region. I'm going to use key command Command U to set the cycle range to that guitar region, and use key command Control S to solo that specific region. And let's even zoom in on this track by using key command Z. All right, so for our electric guitar track here, we can see that these particular smart controls are broken up into three sections. We have dynamic control, control over certain effects, and send levels. I'm just going to start playing this guitar and just start playing around with some of these controls, and then we'll dig in deeper into the individual plugins and what's going on. Here we go. Cool, a lot of stuff is going on, and maybe you're noticing some changes in the channel EQ preview in the inspector on the left-hand side. And that's what's so cool about smart controls. We could start out by opening the compressor, which was a control that I didn't touch yet. If we move this over, as I adjust the squeeze, we can see that the threshold is being adjusted. As we increase the squeeze, the threshold goes down, resulting in more compression. And we can turn the compressor on and off with this switch. So let's give it a try right now. Cool. If we take a look at the channel EQ, we can see that the effects controls right at the top here adjust the tone of the instrument. And if we reduce the effect of that high cut and that low cut, we can see a sort of tilting going on. So by adjusting the control to the right, we're reducing the low end and boosting the high end. And the opposite happens when we adjust the control to the left. And by adjusting the low cut, we reduce low frequencies. And by adjusting the high cut, we reduce high frequencies. So let's give it a try right now. Following that, we have the fat effects. And I'm going to shrink this up by hovering my mouse over the right-hand corner, clicking, holding, and dragging. But by adjusting the distortion control, we add more tube distortion to this guitar, while the coarse control adds more modulation. And lastly, we can increase the level of this guitar being sent to a separate delay and reverb. So check it out. Right, so all these different controls across your plugins, the channel strip, can all be combined into a single interface so that you don't have to go reaching for the channel strip each and every time. And with the channel EQ, we saw that we were actually adjusting two separate plugin controls at the same time with the tone knob. Let's take a look at a different set of smart controls. I'm going to use key Command Z to zoom back out. And then let's hone in on the Solaris kit here. And you can see that the smart controls have been updated. I'll once again zoom using key Command Z. And we see a number of switches that allow us to turn plugins on and off on the channel strip. Let's take a look and a listen. I think the most interesting part of this particular set of smart controls is the pulsar option right here, which when we enable the control, the auto filter is turned on. And as we adjust the control, we can see that the cutoff, the resonance, as well as the LFO are all being adjusted at the same time. Let's take a look at another control. I'll zoom back out using key Command Z. And let's now select our synth chords. Once again, the smart controls have been updated. And pro tip, if you adjust the boundary of your smart controls, depending on how large the smart control window is, you can include more or less Alchemy controls. But at a certain point when our window becomes too big for our screen real estate, we instead get two separate tabs for the transform pad from Alchemy, as well as a controls view. So I'll adjust this. And let's take a listen and a look. And all of these changes are being reflected in the Alchemy instrument itself. The smart controls basically reflect the transform pad and controls from Alchemy, which are already connected together. It's incredible how much control is available to you in the smart control window. And you can open and close the smart controls at any time by using key Command B. And while all of this is incredible, there's a lot more at your disposal when you use smart controls. For instance, you can always view the first EQ on your channel strip by going to the EQ tab. And if you don't have an EQ on your channel strip, clicking on this tab will go ahead and load an EQ. All right, now we've loaded a channel EQ onto our synth chord track. And check it out. Right, we have full control of the channel EQ without ever having to visit the plugin in the channel strip. After that, depending on what track type you're working with, you may see some different buttons in the right-hand corner of the window. In the case of a software instrument, we see a button that gives us quick and easy access to load an arpeggiator to our software instrument. We can see an arpeggiator has been loaded into the MIDI effect slots of our channel strip, and we can easily disable and enable this arpeggiator right from the smart controls by clicking on the button again. And to the left of the arpeggiator button, we get a drop-down that allows us to adjust the controls of the arpeggiation. Open the arpeggiator, as well as the option to load presets from the plugin. All right, let's take a listen. Isn't that awesome? I'm going to zoom back out. And if we select an audio track, I'll select actually the electric guitar here, zoom back in. And if we set the input section of our audio track to an input on our interface, we can see in the right-hand corner of the smart controls, a tuner button has appeared, allowing us to easily load the tuner plugin. So if you're going to be recording an instrument that requires tuning, we can quickly tune up our instrument. Let's go back down and close the tuner. Also, we go to our plugins, and I'm just going to bypass everything right now by clicking on the power button on the left-hand side of each audio effect. And if we load an instance of pedal board, as well as an instance of either amp designer or bass amp designer, we now see two buttons in the upper right-hand corner, which allows us to open and close pedal board and our amp designer plugin, providing quick access and control. All right, let's go back. Let's bypass these two plugins, reintroduce everything else. Let's go back to our control tab. And in the upper left-hand side, we can switch the view from our selected track to any other channels that this track is being sent to. So if you want to adjust specific controls of the reverb or delay, you absolutely can. In fact, let's go back to our track view. Let's send more of this guitar to our delay and reverb and give it a try. Right, so if you get overwhelmed or intimidated digging into individual plugins or going into the mixer and having to navigate around, you can use the smart controls instead to make these adjustments. But not only that, we can actually choose the master channel or the stereo output for our whole project, which allows us to adjust controls of the individual plugins on our whole mix. So I'm actually going to zoom out and unsolo using Control S. And we're going to take a listen as I play with some controls. But I'm actually going to skip all the different parameters for the different plugins and instead focus in on the remix effects. With this remix effects tab and plugin, you can easily remix parts of your productions, and it gets even more fun with Logic Remote on iPad and iPhone, with which you're able to work with multiple controls with both hands. Here we go. Right, that's so cool, and something to definitely keep in mind when you're writing automation in your projects, which we will explore later in the series. Lastly, I want to show you how easy it is to map your own smart controls for your tracks and channel strips. Let's go to the bottom here, and I'll use key command Option Command N to load the new tracks dialog, and let's load an audio track. Let's also grab this tambourine region and copy it down, use Control S to solo, and let's zoom in. And now switch the focus of smart controls to track. All right, obviously we don't have any smart controls that we can start working with yet. We just need to insert a plugin on a track's channel strip to start using smart controls. I'm going to go ahead and load an instance of the compressor. I'll use key command V to hide that plugin. The smart control window has now updated, providing us different controls over our compressor. Let's also load perhaps some modulation. We'll go with the chorus plugin. And lastly, let's load an instance of Chromaverb. All right, so we've loaded 3 different audio effects, but we only see in the Smart Controls window controls for the compressor. And obviously not ideal, because how do we work with our chorus plugin and our Chromaverb plugin if we don't have those smart controls here in the window? What we're going to do is we're going to go to this button all the way to the left in the Smart Control window to show the inspector pane. The inspector provides a lot of customization over your smart controls. To start, we can change the look of our smart controls by clicking on this drop-down menu. Logic automatically assigned us this blue look to our smart controls, but we can change the view to just about anything. A visual interface that maybe reminds you of an acoustic drum kit, or a British combo amp, or just about anything else. If you go to the bottom of the drop-down, you can see there's so many more options for you to choose from. I'm just going to stick with the automatic smart control view. Oh, look at that. Now the interface for our smart controls has been updated to include controls for the compressor, chorus, and chroma verb. But in case you want to quickly remap a control, in this case, we do have a control that's not mapped yet. With the inspector open, if we click on that control, we'll see a blue halo around that control. We can also select other controls around the interface. And from here, we can click on the Learn button in the parameter mapping section. And now if we click on a channel strip control or a plugin control, we just need to touch that control to map it to our smart controls. So look at that. Now the distance control of chroma verb is unfortunately in the chorus section of the smart controls, but still we have access to distance now right from this easy window. But I also want to show you, if you click on the ellipsis button next to the parameter mapping, we can delete all these patch mappings. So now we're starting with a clean slate. If we go back, we can then ask Logic to just automatically map these controls. There you go, a simple and quick way to map these controls without having to go one by one and map them to where you want. And lastly, you can also map smart controls to an external controller that you have connected to your Mac. And to do this, again, with the inspector open, you select the control that you want to assign to an external controller, and you go to Learn under External Controller Assignments. And then you adjust that control on your controller. I'm just going to turn a knob on my Novation launch key to assign the mix control to this knob. And look at that. Now we've assigned this control to my external controller. We can press the Learn button again once we're done assigning controls. And we can see that Logic Pro is letting me know that this control was already assigned to another parameter on my controller. I can either keep both controls or reassign. Let's just reassign. Smart controls are great for easy and quick control of your channel strips, your instruments, your plugins. They can become incredibly handy if you're working from an external controller or using Logic Remote on an iPad or iPhone. Thanks so much, and I'll see you for more tomorrow in our Newbie to Ninja series. Take care.